That Monday morning, the town was wrapped in a heavy, unrelenting stillness. Fog curled around lampposts and empty cars, as if hesitating to let the world wake. In a small corner of this town lived 7-year-old Oliver, a boy who had learned early on that life isn't always fair. His mother had been ill for months, her condition unpredictable and exhausting. Their home, once filled with laughter, now echoed with the ticking of a clock and the quiet whimpers of a child carrying burdens far too heavy for his small shoulders. Oliver understood the value of food in a way most adults never would. He'd watched it vanish from their fridge, each item a small victory or a crushing defeat. When his mother couldn't work, money became scarce, and bills piled up. In the dim kitchen light, Oliver learned a harsh lesson. Sometimes, people who could help simply chose not to. Yet, his spirit remained unbroken. He had a curiosity and courage that defied his years, a spark in his eyes that even hardship couldn't dim. That morning, he walked to the small local grocery store, clutching a crumpled note. The store was modest, run by Mrs. Klein, who always greeted everyone with a warm smile. But today, Oliver wasn't there for smiles. He approached the counter and, with a trembling hand, placed the note in front of her. It was addressed to a man he'd never met. A name whispered on the news and in the streets: Mr. Alexander Wright, the CEO of Wright Industries. A single father himself, his reputation for wealth and success seemed untouchable. The note read simply, "Please don't take our food. My mom is sick. We have nowhere else to turn." Mrs. Klein looked at the boy, her eyes softening. She'd seen children plead for candies or a new toy. But this was different. The raw, urgent honesty in Oliver's gaze pierced through all pretense. She dialed the number on the letter. After a few rings, she was connected to Mr. Wright himself. High above the city in his sleek glass office, Alexander Wright read Oliver's note. Something shifted within him. There was no skepticism, just a deep, instinctive understanding of the fear in those few words. He knew hardship, though his had been of a different kind. He knew the weight of responsibility, and he knew that kindness, however small, could create ripples far beyond what anyone expected. He instructed Mrs. Klein to prepare a basket of groceries, enough to last a family a month, and personally ensured it would be delivered that afternoon. But Alexander didn't stop there. He wanted to meet the boy whose courage had moved him so profoundly. When his assistant suggested caution, he shook his head. "No," he said, his voice firm. "This isn't about business or politics. This is about humanity. I need to see him." Oliver's world changed that day. When the doorbell rang, he opened it to find a man in a tailored suit, carrying a large basket brimming with food. Alexander knelt to meet him at eye level, his expression soft but determined. "Hello, Oliver," he said. "I heard about your note. I wanted to make sure you and your mother are all right." The boy stared for a long moment, then whispered, You don't have to do this." "I know," Alexander replied, "but I want to." It wasn't just the food that mattered. It was the validation that someone cared, that in a world so vast, someone had noticed and acted. Oliver's mother, Emily, watched from the doorway, tears streaming down her face. She had tried to shield her son from their harsh reality, but she couldn't shield him from kindness when it came knocking. Over the next few weeks, Alexander stayed in touch. He arranged for medical support, ensured bills were covered, and set up a fund for Oliver's education. But more importantly, he spent time with the boy, teaching him that courage comes in many forms. It can be as simple as writing a note, as brave as asking for help, and as powerful as believing in the goodness of people. The story spread quickly, capturing the hearts of the community and eventually the nation. Journalists sought interviews, and social media lit up with their story. Yet Alexander remained modest. He refused to appear on television or make grand public statements. "This was never about publicity," he said quietly. "It was about doing the right thing, and teaching a boy that asking for help is not weakness, but strength." For Oliver, the experience was transformative. He began to excel in school, buoyed by the newfound stability. But more than that, he learned a lesson that would guide him for the rest of his life, that courage and kindness, even in small acts, can change the course of a story. Emily, too, found renewed strength. She started volunteering at a local hospital, giving back in any way she could. She saw hope reflected in her son, and in Alexander, a reminder that generosity exists even in an indifferent world. But the story didn't end there. Inspired by Oliver's courage, Alexander started a larger initiative through his company, focused on helping struggling families. The program provided food, medical aid, and educational resources, all built on the principle that no one should face hardship alone. He often said, "It all started with a simple note from a small boy who dared to ask for help." As months turned into years, Oliver grew into a young man who never forgot that pivotal moment. He carried Alexander's example with him, learning to act with empathy and respond with compassion. The community remembered him too, often telling the story of the boy whose plea sparked a wave of change. What was remarkable wasn't just the generosity itself, but the ripple effect it created. Neighbors began helping neighbors more openly. Strangers offered assistance without being asked. The town, once quiet and heavy, became alive with kindness, all tracing back to one boy's note and one man's willingness to listen. Even years later, Oliver would recall that foggy Monday morning, the way the air smelled damp and hopeful all at once. He remembered his mother's smile, the weight of the grocery basket, and the way Alexander had looked him in the eye and said, "You did the right thing, Oliver. Never stop speaking up for what matters." That single phrase became a guiding principle in his life. Alexander continued to lead his company with the same quiet integrity. He often told his colleagues, "Leadership is not measured by profit margins or acquisitions. It's measured by the lives you touch, the courage you inspire, and the hope you create." And he meant every word. In the end, the story of Oliver and Alexander is a timeless reminder that courage and kindness are transformative. It proves that even the smallest voices can be heard if someone is willing to listen, and that the bravest acts are sometimes the simplest ones. Note: a plea, a moment of truth spoken from the heart. So, when we look at the world and wonder where hope lies, we need only remember a foggy morning, a small boy, and the CEO who chose to act not because he had to, but because he could. And in that choice, an entire community learned a lesson about humanity, courage, and the enduring power of kindness. The story, ultimately, isn't about wealth or status. It's about the simple truth that when we respond to the call of another's need, we plant the seeds of change. And sometimes, that change begins with the voice of a child who says, with unwavering sincerity, "Please don't take our food. My mom is sick." Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content that inspires.